was exactly 3:17 a.m. when I woke up because my dog, Buster, was growling. The problem was, Buster never growls. He's the kind of golden retriever that would help a burglar carry the TV out if they scratched his ears. He wasn't loud, just this low, vibrating sound in his chest, and his eyes were locked on the small bathroom door in the corner of my bedroom. I live in a basement apartment. It's cheap, a bit damp, and the only windows are those tiny, high-up rectangles near the ceiling. You can only see feet walking by outside on the sidewalk. Being down here, I'm used to weird noises. I usually hear the landlord walking around upstairs, pipes creaking, or cars driving by. But this noise from Buster was different. It made the air in the room feel heavy, like right before a big storm hits. I'm just an ordinary person. I work a regular 9-to-5 job, I don't drink much, and I definitely don't believe in ghosts or anything like that. I live alone, which I usually like. It's quiet, and I don't have to worry about anyone else's mess. Buster is my only roommate. Until that night, I had never felt unsafe here. It was my little sanctuary, even if it was below ground. I tried to shake off the grogginess. The glow from my phone told me it was still the middle of the night. The landlord, Mr. Henderson, usually goes to bed by 10 p.m. This couldn't be him. Maybe it was a rat in the walls. That seemed plausible. I live in an old building, and rodents are a common issue. I tried to convince myself that's all it was. "Shut up, Buster," I whispered, shoving him. He didn't even look at me. He was totally tense, standing stiffly at the foot of the bed, that low, vibrating growl still going. He looked genuinely scared, and that started making me scared too. Dogs know things we don't. Their senses are way sharper. If he was this freaked out, I needed to figure out why. I sat up slowly, the sheets sliding off me. The room was freezing. My feet hit the cold floor, and I shivered. I stared at the bathroom door. It was closed, just like I always leave it, but that growling wasn't stopping, and now I could hear something else. A very faint, scratching sound coming from inside the bathroom. It wasn't in the walls. It was in the room. It sounded like fingernails against the tile, or maybe something dragging very slowly. It was inconsistent, stopping for a few seconds and then starting again. My throat felt dry. I should go check it. It was probably nothing. A mouse got in through a gap, or a big bug. But the irrational part of my brain was firing, telling me to stay where I was, to hide under the covers. I crept towards the door, bypassing Buster, who backed up a few steps, still staring intently at the wood. My hand was shaking as I reached for the doorknob. This was stupid. I was a grown person being intimidated by a closed door in my own home. I grabbed the knob and turned it quickly, pushing the door open, ready to scare whatever it was away. Nothing. The tiny bathroom was empty. The small window way up near the ceiling was locked tight. The white tiles were clean. No rodents, no bugs, nothing. The scratching sound had stopped the moment the door opened. I let out a long, shaky breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "See, Buster?" "Nothing," I said, turning around. He wasn't growling anymore, but he was still staring past me into the bathroom. He looked uneasy, tail tucked slightly. I checked behind the toilet, under the small sink cabinet, in the tiny shower stall. All clear. I must have been dreaming the scratching, and Buster was probably just reacting to me being tense. I went back to bed, and Buster eventually lay down too, though he didn't relax completely. I was wide awake now, listening to the silence of the basement. Every creak of the building sounded amplified. Every shift of the upstairs floorboards seemed suspicious. I kept checking my phone, watching the minutes slowly tick by. The rest of the week was unsettling. The scratching sound didn't come back, but something about the apartment felt different. The air was always colder, even with the heat turned up. A weird smell, faintly metallic or chemical, lingered in the bedroom. I cleaned everything, ran the fan, but it stuck around. I started finding small things out of place. My toothbrush on the edge of the sink instead of the cup. The shower curtain closed when I knew I'd left it open. Buster remained twitchy, always sniffing around the vents and the baseboards, especially in the bathroom. I was sleeping poorly, waking up at the slightest noise, my heart pounding, fully expecting that bathroom door to open. I felt like I was being watched, even though I was completely alone. I started sleeping with the lights on, but that just made the shadows in the corner look darker. I told myself I was just stressed from work, but the knot in my stomach told me otherwise. Exactly a week later, it was 3:17 a.m. again. Buster was growling again. This time, it wasn't low. It was sharp and frantic. I woke up instantly, already sweating. The scratching was back, much louder and faster now, like whatever was making it was desperate. It was coming from the bathroom again, but it sounded closer. I looked at the bathroom door, and my blood turned to ice. The door was moving. Not a little bit. It was swinging back and forth, very slightly, as if something was pushing on the handle from the other side, or maybe there was a draft. The problem was, I always locked that door from the bedroom side. I'm positive I had. But the doorknob was turning, slow and deliberate, back and forth, the latch clicking with each movement. I couldn't move. My muscles felt like lead. I was watching my worst nightmare unfold in my own bedroom. It wasn't a rat. It wasn't the wind. Someone or something was on the other side of that door, right there in the small, locked bathroom, and they were trying to open it. Buster started barking loudly, lunging at the door, but keeping his distance. The knob continued to turn, more aggressively now. The scratching sound grew to a frantic, wet scraping on the other side of the wood, like something was trying to claw its way out. The door started shaking in its frame, as if someone was throwing their body against it. My first thought was that I had to call 911. My phone was on the nightstand right next to me, but I was so paralyzed by terror I couldn't even lift my hand. The idea of making noise, of talking, felt impossible. Any noise I made felt like an invitation. All I could do was stare at the wood, expecting it to give way any second, expecting the locks to break. The deadbolt, the one on the bedroom side, was holding, but the chain lock was rattling dangerously. I knew with absolute certainty that if that door opened, my life was over. I didn't know what was on the other side, but I knew it was malicious. The frantic clawing and shaking went on for what felt like hours, though it was probably only a few minutes. I could hear deep, guttural noises from the other side, not human groans, more like something that was trying to imitate a voice but was getting it wrong. Buster was hysterical by this point, barking so loud it was deafening. And then, as suddenly as it had started, everything went completely quiet. The knob stopped turning, the scratching ceased, the noises were gone. Only the sound of Buster's heavy breathing and my own ragged gasps filled the room. I lay there, staring at the door for the longest, most terrifying minutes of my life. I didn't dare move. I was terrified that any sound, any movement, would start it all over again. Eventually, I realized that I couldn't stay here forever. Buster had calmed down a bit, though he was still wary. I needed to know. I needed to see what was in that bathroom. Slowly, agonizingly, I crawled out of bed. Every muscle protested. I crept towards the bathroom door, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it might burst. The doorknob was still, the locks engaged. I took a deep breath, and with one swift motion, I unlocked the deadbolt and the chain lock, grabbed the knob, and pushed the door open. It was empty. Just like before, the tiny bathroom was completely empty. The window was locked. Nothing was out of place. No claw marks on the door, no sign of a break-in. Nothing. It made zero sense. I was gasping for air, looking around the small space, my brain struggling to process what I was seeing, or rather, what I wasn't seeing. I checked behind everything again, under the sink, in the tiny shower, in the closet. Nothing. It felt impossible, like I was losing my mind. But I had heard it. Buster had heard it. It was real. I went back to the bedroom and called the police. 2 officers arrived about 20 minutes later. They were nice enough, but I could tell they didn't really believe me. They checked the main building doors, the windows, and the entire apartment. There were no signs of tampering. They asked me if I'd taken anything, if I had a history of sleepwalking, if I'd been watching scary movies. They left, telling me to call back if anything else happened, and that maybe I should talk to a doctor about sleep disturbances. I didn't go to sleep that night. I packed a bag and left as soon as the sun came up, Buster right on my heels. I didn't care about my job, my things, anything. I just needed to get out of there. I called Mr. Henderson, my landlord, and told him something had happened and that I was breaking my lease and would be moving my stuff out during the day. He sounded confused and annoyed, but I didn't care. When I went back with some friends later that day to move my things, the smell was stronger. That weird, metallic chemical smell. We checked the bathroom again. My friend Sarah found it, behind the small, standing cabinet under the sink, the one I hadn't really moved that much. There was a tiny crawlspace access panel that I had never even noticed. It was painted over, looking like it hadn't been opened in decades. But when Sarah tried to pull the cabinet, it slid too easily. The paint around the panel was cracked and fresh. The metal pull handle had fresh scratches on it, the kind made by fingernails desperately trying to get a grip. My stomach dropped. I realized the scratching I had heard hadn't been coming from inside the bathroom. It was coming from underneath it, through that panel. My friends helped me grab the edge of the panel and pull. It was stuck, but after a hard tug, it came loose with a loud groan, revealing a small, dirt-floored void under the building foundation. It was just a space, maybe 4 feet deep, but as soon as the air from that space hit the room, we all nearly choked. The metallic smell was overwhelming. Mixed in with it was a heavy, sweet scent that made my gorge rise. We shined our phone flashlights into the void. There, just a few feet away, in the corner, were items. A crumpled, water-stained jacket that I recognized as one that had gone missing from the laundry room months ago. A stack of old newspapers, all dated from a specific 2-week period. Empty water bottles, the remnants of takeout food, and someone had been scratching on the inside of the wooden bathroom floorboards, directly above the crawl space, right where the panel was. I didn't call the police again. I knew what they would say. They'd say a squatter had been living down there, that they must have left when I called the cops the first time, that there was no way to find them. They'd be right, but the thought of some person, living in that tiny dark dirt hole just inches away from where I was sleeping, it made me feel physically ill. And worst of all, there was a question that has haunted me every single day since then. A question I'll never be able to answer. The night that I woke up, the night the doorknob was turning, the scratching was so frantic because that person had tried to get out. They were trying to claw their way through the floor, through the access panel, and into my apartment. I keep thinking about the fact that I was so close to that door, that I was just inches away from opening it, and that I was about to look into the eyes of whoever or whatever was down there. If I had opened that door, I don't know what would have happened, but I know that I almost did. And that thought is enough to make me feel like I'm still down in that cold, damp basement, waiting for the knob to turn. I moved out that day and I've never gone back, and I still can't sleep in the dark, and every single sound, no matter how small, makes me hold my breath, waiting, wondering if it's back. Because I know that whatever was in that hole, whatever was trying to get to me, is still out there. It could be anywhere.